What's going on? This is the Pre-Chiro podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Ben Glass, coming to you live with another pro-Chiro connection out at Texas Chiropractic Society with Dr. Scott Kelley. Dr. Kelley, can you get us started by just introducing yourself, sharing a little bit about what your background was before you chose this path and what you were up to before going to chiropractic school?
Absolutely. So as far as time in practice before school, so everything like that, 10 years in practice as of this month, graduated April of 2012. I was from high school, undergrad, straight to chiropractic school. So I had a fairly straight path as far as that goes. I don't think I chose to become a chiropractor. I firmly believe chiropractic chooses you. I'm one of the few that had never been adjusted prior to chiropractic school. So I jumped in the deep end with both feet, not really knowing anything from anything, and wouldn't do anything different.
Can you talk about the specifics that led you to actually make this huge commitment in life without
Absolutely.
having experienced it for yourself?
Mm-hmm. So a senior in high school, folks said, what do you want to do? You want to go out in the working world? Do you want to go to school? We don't care. Just what do you want to do? And mom randomly said, what about a chiropractor? And I had no idea what they did, what they do. I was thinking, I was an athlete, sports medicine. I now realize that sports medicine is not an actual thing. You just have healthcare providers that work with athletes. Mm-hmm. And mom said, what about a chiropractor? So I said, I don't know what they do. She said, well, call one. Asked if you can go shadow them. So called up a doc, senior in high school, said, hi, my name is Scott Kelley. I'd like to come shadow you. And he said, that's fine. I need you to do two things. One, when you come to my office, dress up. I was like, okay, cool. Two, go to my website, read about what a subluxation is. I was like, okay, I'm not familiar with this term. Hop on the website. It says brain-body connection, interference in that connection, i.e. subluxation. Chiropractors find subluxations and correct them. I could wrap my head around this concept, and I showed up at his office. I watched the doc adjust for 2 hours, had a notepad pen. I didn't write down a darn thing. I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This is what I want to do. So in his office afterwards, he says, do you have any questions for me? I said, no, that was just awesome. How can I do that? So I finished high school, went to undergraduate. My undergraduate did have a 3+3 with Logan. I'm a Logan graduate. So I went straight from undergraduate to Logan. And in between my time between that intervention, I guess we could say, in high school to when I got to Logan, I didn't remember what a subluxation was. As I said, I wasn't raised in a chiropractic family. Fortunately, I joined a professional chiropractic fraternity in Tri-1, and that absolutely set my trajectory of where I'm at right now. I firmly believe that I would not be a cash practice subluxation based adjustment exclusive. I don't say just adjusting because it's exclusively adjusting. And I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for gaining that understanding early on in school.
Okay, I want to talk about a couple of things. One is that you did the 3+3, mm-hmm. and the years leading up to you entering the actual chiropractic program had very little to nothing to do with actually studying chiropractic and getting filled up so that when you got to chiropractic school, you had a focus. And then the second thing is how you were able to find the fraternity in the first semester of your chiropractic education. And I just want to hit a side note here. When you get to chiropractic school, it's somewhat fragmented as far as all these different groups are moving in different directions, and there's no real organization as far as like, you go to this group if you're interested in this thing, or you go to this group if you're interested in that thing. And people somehow find the fraternity, or the fraternity finds them, to borrow your words, and are instantly able to align as studying chiropractic from day one. So that's a blessing that you had. I'm just curious, like, how all of this transpired, and also if you could just touch on what those 3 years leading up to Logan will sort of look like, given that you were already intending to go to chiropractic school.
So the 3+ years leading up to it, I left undergraduate with about 106, 110, 12 credit hours of the 126 necessary. So the 3+3 aspect is the university, chiropractic university, transfers credits back, so you actually get that undergraduate degree from your undergraduate. So, but in those 3 years, I started as a biology major, because that met the majority of those requirements of the 96 required credit hours, and it was your basic undergraduate education. You'd get all your prereqs, you'd get your history 100s and everything like that, and then more the science. Basically, the last year and a half, I just lived in the science building. I was done everything else. I didn't have anything else to do as far as with the other courses. No education in regards to chiropractic in undergraduate, but I wouldn't expect that there. The 3+3 program with my undergraduate was just a way to expedite getting into chiropractic school. About a semester or two prior to graduation, or to getting my required courses, I switched to pre-medicine. It got me there one semester faster. There was a biology course that was a required one, like a 300 level course that wasn't offered in that semester. If I switched to pre-medicine, I was therefore able to get straight down to Logan following that. So, but yeah, as far as the education goes in specific to chiropractic, there's very little to none. They didn't talk about it at all. Just that they had an agreement with the school. If you met certain GPA, had the requirements, you were automatically accepted, and sort of fast tracked that. So it got me there a semester faster versus just staying the traditional 4 years at my undergraduate, which is convenient, saves a little bit of time, saves a little bit of money, and gets you into the university that you like faster. Now, getting down to Logan and starting Try One, I didn't know anything from anything. Saw some guys that were doing the deal, seemed like they knew what they were talking about, seemed like they were a little bit ahead as far as the initial entry aspect of chiropractic college and the adjusting aspect. That's why I went to chiropractic school, is to adjust. I didn't know that at the time, but now it's looking back, it's like, oh, absolutely, that's why I was there. That was the calling to that. And the individuals that were part of that group were doing that. So if I could say to students, prospective students, early students in university, in chiropractic college specifically, I understand that the vast majority of universities say that you're going to sign something right when you get to school that says you're not going to adjust. You got to practice. You got to get good with your hands. If you cannot efficiently and effectively locate subluxations and effectively correct them, then what's the point? So if you need to find a local doc and pick their brain and practice with them and shadow them to do it on a absolutely legal standpoint as far as for what you signed with the school, yeah, sure. If not, practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to touch on a couple of different things. One is that yesterday I was on Instagram and I just did a little research. The hashtag pre-Chiro students has less than 250 hashtag usages by students or people that want to promote pre-Chiro. Pre-med student have 900,000 hashtag usages and over 750,000 hashtag usages for pre-med student. So if we just look at how slept on pre-Chiro is by the profession, and the fact that you knew you wanted to go to chiropractic school, you were in a pre-Chiro position as a pre-Chiro student, meaning you were planning to go to pre-Chiro school or going to Chiro school, and had no idea that there was something you could do before you got to chiropractic school. And still, even in this conversation right now, you're still speaking to that student who just arrived at chiropractic school and giving them advice.
Mm-hmm.
And I still believe that that's the primary subluxation of the profession. We could get in deeper to that, but that's just my statement on pre-Chiro being this huge disconnect between the brain, the profession, and the body, the prospective student or incoming student. And therefore, it remains generation after generation somewhat fragmented. However, I'm right in alignment with you on the path that you chose in chiropractic school. And I would just love for you to go deeper. What are some of the things that you sort of turn to as far as resources, mentorship while you were in chiropractic school to sort of shape your path?
Mm-hmm. So as far as mentorship, Early on in chiropractic school, I took a CA position at an office. It was limited hours because, I mean, you're in school. Other than that is seeing different practices. Is take time while you have the time to see how different people practice. Whether it's a, you know, say an AK doc, whether it's a, I mean, I'm not a big fan of PI practices, but you can see what a PI practice looks like. Versus a Gonstead practitioner versus and for me, I practice Scott technique. It's a little bit of a lot, whether it's toggle recoil, whether it's diversified, whether it's Gonstead, whether it's Logan Basic. I instrument adjusting. I use a drop table. I won't call it Thompson because I'm not following the technique per se, but go shadow people and see how they communicate. I think that aspect of while you're in school, or the we'll still call them pre-Chiros, is communication. See how they talk and interact with their practice members. For me and my staff, there's a couple things I don't talk about. That's sports, weather, religion, politics. It doesn't move them in the direction as far as for anything chiropractic. So I don't talk about it in the office. There's no point. It doesn't, it's self-serving at that point. Now, the hashtag that you were mentioning, pre-Chiro and everything, the one that I recall from when I was in school was a DC2B. I don't know if that is utilized with any aspect, but the fact that they are going to be DCs soon, maybe that has some traction to it as well. But yeah, did I answer your question? I think I'm bounced around.
Absolutely. And I just want to touch on something that you mentioned. You said, get it while you have the time. And can you just talk about reflect on the amount of time you had in undergrad versus the amount of time you had in chiropractic school to go to these offices, to potentially practice outside of the curriculum, relevant skills like professional communication or professional touch, or studying the philosophy?
Right. So in undergraduate, the amount of time, free time, available time in undergraduate was exponentially more than in chiropractic school, just based upon a credit hour amount. I mean, a heavy load in undergraduate is probably 18, 20 hours. A normal load in chiropractic school is 30, 32 hours, credit hours per trimester. And your typical undergraduate, you have summers off. Typical chiropractic school, you're year round. Whether you're a quarter system or a trimester system. And you'd have weekends, but still you're going to be studying a fair bit of time in the chiropractic curriculum. So I'd say the difference is this: you're undergraduate, you have this time; chiropractic school, you have this time. But it's with time management, which is huge. You can still get those things done and just doing more even when you don't think you have the time. And that even comes down to structuring your play. I don't expect pre-Chiro students or Chiro students to, have this blinders, which the majority of them do, to just do school. You do have to have some type of life. And so schedule your play. Say, I'm going to play from this time to this time, and have that management aspect of it. And it's like, yeah, I may have that test coming up, but you know what? I need to sort of let the brain float for a minute.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about what your involvement is today, professionally, like professional engagement, I call it, beyond practice, what you're doing to stay involved, to stay inspired, and also just to share the energy that you have for chiropractic with the profession?
Right. So getting involved is massive and necessary as far as joining, whether it's a state organization, a national or international organization. At the beginning, I didn't introduce that I am the current president of the Chiropractic Society of Texas. I moved to Texas in 2012. I found the CST in 2014 through the doc that I was working for at the time. So I joined the organization then, and I was an active member for 4 or 5 years before being voted into the executive board. I started off as secretary and then vice president, and now as of last year, president of the organization. And these are volunteer positions. Don't expect to get into this thinking that there's going to be a monetary compensation, but that's not why I do it. The reason I do it is, one, to stay involved in the profession, know what's going on, and potentially having an impact on the direction and trajectory of the profession, specifically for my state of Texas. Also a dues-paying member of the IFCO, so that's the International Federation of Chiropractic Organizations. I'm a regent for Sherman College of Chiropractic. That's just, I support that school now financially on a monthly basis. And as far as with that's sort of the professional organization side. With the CST, I attend all of the state board quarterly meetings.
Not to time out.
Yeah.
As a little interlude, your audio started to fade about a minute and a half ago. I don't know if that's you stepped away, but it started to get to that far away distance again.
Is that any better now?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll go back up to getting into the CST, the Chiropractic Society of Texas. So member for 4 or 5 years, was voted into a position on the exec board, was secretary, then VP and president as of last year. Also member of the IFCO, so that's the International Federation of Chiropractic Organizations. And then I'm a regent for Sherman College of Chiropractic. So that's the organizations as far as on a state, national, and international forum go. With the CST, that means I'll attend all of our state board meetings, our quarterly meetings for that. People get confused with state associations and the board. So your state associations are representing chiropractors that are members of that state association. Then you have the board. So the board is your licensing board. So if you're here in Texas, that's the TBCE, the Texas Board of Chiropractic Examiners. Now, I attend those meetings. They are not exciting, but it talks about rules, regulations, and scope of practice, what we can marketing, what you can and cannot say with anything in regards to that. So it's good to stay in the know for those things. Now, as far as for keeping me, that's sort of me, the professional, as far as the organization I'm a part of. Me, the individual as a chiropractor, I attend, obviously, the CST annual conference every year, which we bring principal chiropractors down to Texas to basically share the tick and get our CEs. In addition to that, I'll attend other principal CE events, whether they're for CE or not, and that includes adjusting seminars. Just because I'm practicing DC doesn't mean that I need to that I stop honing my skill set as a chiropractor. So that's attending, different adjusting seminars. Just if I pull 1-2 things from any of those, well, it's worth every little bit of it. Now, as far as the events that go on every year that I don't go for CE, but just go for me. That could be anything from DE, so the Dynamic Essential. That could be Mile High by Danny Knowles up in Denver. That could be Berkshire's on the East Coast. That's Band of Brothers. There's a number of events. I'm forgetting some that I've attended, but just those, the couple that pop in my head. That's me, the individual, me, the chiropractor, wanting to stay, constantly dipped. You got CalJam, you have a number of other, really just anything that's just pure principled tick. That's what really, revives me or gets me excited about being back in the office.
No judgment, but can you reflect on the kind of like the class that you graduated with? How many of them you're in touch with? Might be difficult to say specifically, but
Right.
How many chiropractors that you graduated with you think are still in practice 10 years later and are aligned actually practicing chiropractic, or are they doing other stuff? I'm more looking for percentages. I know
Right.
that it's going to be kind of rough, but I'm just curious if you can reflect on some of the outcomes of chiropractic education through your lens with the cohort that you went through. Who's still practicing chiropractic, and are people genuinely happy with the chiropractic education experience they went through? Do they wish that it was any different? Do you wish it was any different? There's multiple questions there.
Right. So my graduating class was 78. The one in front of me, the trimester in front of me, I think was 140 or 130. With I'll sort of lump those two together because I know people in both. So that roughly say 200 graduates across 2 trimesters. I stay in regular contact, maybe 15 of them. So a very small percentage of who I have active contact with. As far as for who I'll see on socials and things like that is maybe 50, maybe another 50, so 65. We'll say I stay in contact or I have contact with a third of those individuals. Of those ones, I can say confidently of that, say 60 people, that 75% are still practicing chiropractic. I do know that there is a percentage, we'll say 25 to maybe 40, that are not practicing chiropractic anymore for whatever reasons. As far as the education goes, now, when I graduated 10 years ago, there was a big shift. I'd say probably 5 years ago in the chiropractic education in my school. I would not go, knowing what I know now, I would not be happy with the chiropractic education. Now, they'll get you to be able to pass boards, which is vital. You have to pass boards to be able to practice. But is it a chiropractic education or is it just to pass a test? I would like more emphasis on adjusting in schools, even with the requirements of outpatient clinic now. It's patient interactions. For us, it was a number of adjustments. We had to have some other things as well. From what I hear from students, the difficulty in getting x-ray, if you look behind me, that's my x-ray machine. It's a standard of care for me as far as that goes. And I understand that it's difficult now for students to be able to get those x-ray credits or even to get their patient's x-ray, which the amount of dose is so minimal, it's ridiculous, the arguments against it. So as far as to answer the chiropractic education part of it, I'm not happy with it. That's just as being honest with you.
But just to speak more to the solutions that could manifest in the upcoming years with focused effort, not only from TCS, but also from people that you're brushing shoulders with if you go to all those events, where should the profession direct its energy and focus to support students going through chiropractic education who might not have access to the same quality of education that we had access to even 10 years ago?
Right. First is joining your state associations, specifically joining your principled state associations. And then getting involved with your alma mater, whether that's just going back and doing a talk for the clubs, or more importantly than that is getting on the boards, getting on the board of trustees for your schools to have that. That's how you could have a direct influence on that. Now that could be a difficult task depending on which school you went to and which school you came from, but continually beating the drum and not wavering from that. So the state associations need members. With members, you have money. With money, you can do more to positively affect the trajectory of the profession. So that's the DCs that I'm reaching out to, is to get involved and stay involved. As far as the students go, it's reaching out to those docs and realistically just asking to come shadow them. I've had students shadow me and I love it. I have a student that's coming to shadow me. He's a try 9, almost try 10. Next Monday, not tomorrow, but in a week, he'll be down here for 3 days, and he's not from Texas. This is not a home state for him. He's going through some effort to get down here, and I'll help him with that. And just to that. So on the student side of things is ask docs that you look up to or want to practice like, and just go and shadow them. As far as for the practicing docs, is getting involved and staying involved, just not going in your four walls and seeing your practice members. It's doing more. That's what we have to do.
Since you're so active, not only with your state association, but also with the number of other things that you mentioned, can you look back on the last 10 years of some accomplishments that were actually made because of these associations to help support the students or help support young chiropractors or just help support the profession in general? Like, what are some of the outcomes or accomplishments?
So a number of things we've done is position papers as far as the state association goes. In regards to a couple of different topics, X-ray was one of them, and or the use of X-ray was one of them. Is maintaining that. As far as anything else goes, directly in the last couple of years, is we have gone up to the schools and had one-on small group with some of the clubs at the schools, and it's just giving back. It's a 5-hour drive or a 1-hour flight for me to go to either one of the schools that are here in Texas. And I closed my office for a day, flew up to the schools and just poured in on the students. They had about, I asked them for any questions they'd have for what it's like in practice, and I had a list of 42 questions. And I took about an hour and a half and just went through each one of them. So as far as for giving directly back, it's just, taking time to pour into the students and let them know that it's like, yes, you can practice an adjustment exclusive, direct pay, cash practice, and do it very ethically and very successfully. So that's a number of things that we've done, at least here locally, to attempt to give back to the students.
Awesome. Can you speak to some of the communication that takes place between you and practice members as they come in, just to help educate them about chiropractic? What are some of the fundamentals that you want to get across, or some of, keeping it simple and some simple, specific messages?
Certainly. So the first, I'll go a little bit through my day one process. So paperwork. We have to have some paperwork. We have to gain a history. So after their paperwork's filled out, I have them watch a short video. It's about 4.5 minutes long and explains the term subluxation. And it goes through that. So now, as they've watched that video and seen the brain-body connection, where the nerves go to, where the connections are, as far as with the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral spine goes, now I come in and I've read through their paperwork, and I absolutely tell them I'm going to address those things. But first, we need to cover a couple things. One, further about what a subluxation is, and more so is your body's inability to adapt to 3 stressors. So we all know the 3 T's. So physical, chemical, and emotional stress, or thoughts, toxins, and traumas. And it's not that those cause subluxation, but the inability to adapt to those is what will lead to a subluxation. And that's my job as a chiropractor, to locate that and correct it. The next thing I'll point out is that I don't treat anything. I don't treat any disease or disorder. I think treating somebody is taking somebody out to ice cream. That's a treat. So I provide chiropractic care. That's the shift that is, I'd say, a little bit different from my practice to some other ones that may not practice in a salutogenic model. I don't expect a practice member to understand salutogenesis, but they can grasp the concept of what my role is in their health. So when they have awesome results, I don't take credit for that either. I didn't do the work; their body did. And those are the key things that I get across. Okay, what is a subluxation? What is my role in this? So my role is to locate subluxations, correct them with the adjustment, get the heck out of the way, and then I'm not treating anything. They may have X, Y, or Z disorder or issue or complaint or symptom, and we'll address those, but I'm not treating it. My job is to locate subluxations, get out the way, and let the body go. The last thing is, I would say, what's called pre-framing maintenance care. And that's letting folks know, it's like, yes, you may have issues and we're going to see that issue resolve, but really the big benefit that I can do for folks is maintenance care. I haven't had a sick day in 10 years. And I'll pause after that one intentionally, like I just did. And I'll say, I haven't had a sick day in 10 years. And that's because I maintain weekly adjustments. My chiropractor comes to the office. I have 4 chiropractors. I have my regular chiropractor and I have 3 backups in case he's out of town. I take my frequency very seriously. I don't like to miss my scheduled adjustments. That's Tuesday mornings at 7:45. That's my schedule. And I tell everybody that. So those are the key things is, yes, I'm on this journey with you. I'm under care as well. I'm not seeking treatment, but I'm under chiropractic care. I'm not treating anything, and my job is to locate subluxations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can you speak a little bit about what your visions are for how you aim to contribute and continue to support your community, not only in practice but also in the profession? We're 10 years in, both you and I, to being in practice. Do you have anything that like is maybe a bigger vision, bigger than your practice, that you're working on?
So the aspects that are bigger than my practice, and as far as we'll start small with my local community, is that we have an opportunity to support people when they need help with fundraisers or anything else like that. And so I'll have my band students helping them, with supporting them with help them uniforms or any trips that they're going on, as far as that goes. And that goes a long way, that we're just able to do that on an individual basis. So as far as for starting locally, with your practice members, is finding out what things they have going on and being able to assist with those as needed, whether it's a missed pageant or this, that, or the other thing. So as far as beyond checking and adjusting, there's that aspect, is we do have the availability to help with those things, and even if it's a minimal monetary donation, it still goes a long way for them. So just in my immediate community, those are some things that we get to do on a regular basis, which is fun. And on a state side, things is really being involved with the board, with your state boards at that point. So that's attending the meetings, not just sitting there and listening, but being an active participant in that, and communicating with the board of what the needs are of your practicing docs. And is that, as far as having folks apply and become board members, yeah, that's a part of it too. And from there, on the bigger scope of things, is, I could get on the raw aspect. Yeah, we need every man, woman, and child checked from birth until death, from womb to tomb. And yes, that is a lofty goal. I don't think I have the answer on how to make that happen, as far as for having the cultural authority of health that we should and or could have. I don't have the answer on that. But I do know that we have a duty to uphold and stay involved on that state and therefore national level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, oftentimes I'll ask people, what is the most common cause, or what is the most common cancer in men? And they'll guess prostate a lot of the time. And then I'll say colorectal. And I say the reason colorectal is the number one, I think, is because it's the most often overlooked area of the body that people take care of besides their spine. I'm always kind of tying it back to the spine and the nervous system. But for me to share that stat earlier in this interview, that there's 200 posts in the name of pre-Chiro and 900,000 posts in the name of pre-med, what do you think needs to happen, or what do you think could happen if we invested as a profession in pre-chiropractic as a field of study, as a culture, as a primer to get any incoming student to chiropractic schools, no matter which school you go to, clear on what subluxations are, clear on what chiropractors do, and experienced as far as being in offices, working with offices, getting checked by chiropractors, adjusted, and also developing some fundamental skills that when they arrive at chiropractic school, they're really clear on why they're going to chiropractic school. What could that do, not only in the US, but also in other countries that are starting new schools, to really prepare and accurately market the profession for what it is to the general public, as far as attracting young and new chiropractors into the situation we call the profession?
I think that is vital. It's an outstanding thing, to where students would go into chiropractic school for the understanding of what chiropractic is. With most students being, we'll say, in around the age of 22, prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet, so the decision-making processes isn't there. So if we can help educate on a forefront that what chiropractic is, what it is not, and oh goodness, it'd be great. I think I said I didn't have a best accurate statistics for who's still in practice, but I know there's a number. I had a student that sat two next to me after the trimester one. He was like, this isn't really for me. I didn't understand it at the time, but that was so profound. And I'm thankful that student didn't move forward because it wasn't the right fit. So if you can have this body of students that understand what chiropractic is and what chiropractic isn't, and they can make that decision ahead of time, that I think that moves the trajectory of the profession in an absolutely necessary direction. Let me know how I can help on that.
You're helping right now, but I believe that people in positions of power like yourself who have people that are successful in practice that you're working side by side with, to not only defend chiropractic, but also I feel like we're on the defensive too often. We need to get more on the offensive. And I think that a lot of the times there's an absence of clarity on what the offensive could look like, of like what is going to deliver us the highest return on our investment of energy and time and resources, if we put our resources in this direction. And there's not a clarity there. It's like, here you are talking to me about position papers defending why x-ray is essential for chiropractic practice, even though x-ray has been used for over 100 years in chiropractic. So to me, that's a defensive, necessary but defensive act on behalf of a group of people that are very strong and powerful in what they're capable of, if they get, behind and aligned with a mission. And so I do believe that leveraging the network of docs that are in the TCS to support pre-Chiro students, and leveraging the network of chiropractic students that are involved in TCS to support pre-Chiro students in different ways. I believe that is a great step in exemplifying what a model could look like, where a state association supports the students, not only that are in chiropractic schools in that state, but also students in the university in that state that are planning to go to chiropractic school. So it's like now we're creating a more cohesive and interconnected profession where people that are a little farther along down the path can help lift up the people that are earlier in the path. So like you mentioned, the trajectory can be much different. I think that is the subluxation that needs to be corrected in the profession, is that there's no continuity from undergrad to chiropractic school to chiropractic practice, where people are continually supported and are able to look back and say, wow, this team that I joined called chiropractic is one of the most supportive structures that I could have ever joined. Instead, they're entering a profession that they feel is not supportive of them, an education system that's not aligned with the actual practice. And that's another topic, but it's true. Like, this has been going on for decades. So instead of trying to fix the system, it's like, let's look at the cause. And the cause is back when the student first hears about chiropractic, first experiences chiropractic, first starts to orient themselves to, if I want to become a chiropractor, what is the best path for me? What is the path that is most supportive for me? And I just think that there's not a lot of support out there, unfortunately, for these incoming students beyond the admissions teams that have an agenda to meet a quota to enroll their students. And so we need independent projects developed by groups of people that are successful and embody a good role model of a chiropractor. And I think that's going to be what pushes us forward as a profession. And just think about it, man. There's no chiropractors in any of the health centers on all these college campuses. If we start investing in pre-Chiro, we get the pre-Chiro students educating their teachers, the guidance counselors, their administrators on what chiropractic is. Before you know it, it's natural for chiropractors to start to show up on these college campuses in these health centers practicing chiropractic. Now we're, in the name of student wellness, in the name of a broader health and well-being message and model, and now we've branded or rebranded the profession to be doctors of health and well-being, doctors of the nervous system and brain spinal cord and spine connection, neurospinal subluxation. Like, all these different words start to get bounced around, right?
So I know one of the things that at least for the individual docs in their own communities, is going to your local university. They have, I can guarantee you, if you go to your local university, they would love to have you come and talk with their students, and you just have to set it aside twice a year, each semester, and just continue to do it. And I just at a very minimum, taking 2 days out of the year to go speak with pre-Chiro students or potential pre-Chiro students that don't know that they're pre-Chiro students. That's how yeah, there's a couple universities I'm gonna reach out to this week.
Thank you. And so, just to keep that going, what you just touched on, imagine that these universities that teach or colleges that teach chiropractic specifically have admissions teams who have already reached out to these universities and gone to them and had conversations with those students. Sure, they've attracted some students to be interested in their school, but what if there was a program, not a program that's just by itself, this one program, but if there was like a curriculum essentially that was there for them to now grab a hold of and say, okay, I have 3 years before I graduate undergrad, or I have 2 more years to complete my prerequisites. This is a curriculum that I need to follow to prepare for chiropractic school. So it's taking them from theory to application to experience to actual practice. I don't know about you. I didn't have any entrepreneurial, actually I did, but so I credit a lot of my success on just like my background before chiropractic school, like having done things that made me uncomfortable, made me nervous, but stretched me and helped me grow as a human being. And I think that pushing students to do these things before school will increase their likelihood of success. Um, what did you do before chiropractic school that you look back on now really has helped you? Just fundamental skills, maybe character building, things that you were up to that you look at now and you're like, wow, that shaped me as a person and helped me really be capable of being a business owner or a person that works with their hands athletically and adjusts people and connects with people of all walks of life.
So as far as the forming connections and that side of it goes, I worked sales throughout high school, undergraduate, and while in chiropractic school. I know I mentioned I was a CA for a short period, but I also worked in sales on the weekends. It mainly was clothing retail. So you get to meet a lot of people, and it's a lot of no's. Just like any spinal screening health fair that any practicing doc has ever been to, it's a lot of no's. Just to be able to chat with folks. So, and people will throw you oddball comments, and they try to be funny at times too, and it's how to roll with that, how to read different people. So as far as a life experience aspect goes, it was working in sales. Whether you like it or not, even though you are a doctor of chiropractic, you're selling yourself. You're absolutely selling yourself, whether you know it or not, all day and every day. So that's a part of it, is realizing that, and just really the talking with people aspect of that, and the troubleshooting. And I could go in and say, yeah, I was involved in sports, team sports and everything like that, working cohesively with other groups and individuals, because you have to do that with your team. But I would say that was one of the things is, and the same would hold true for you either do a clothing retail or food industry. Food industry, they catch a lot more flack than I think I did in just clothing sales, working retail. But that was a influence on just meeting people and being able to communicate with literally anybody. So that was something just growing up that was a part of my character building process.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Crucial. I think it's these types of stories or these types of recognitions that can help paint a picture for an undergrad or a prospective student or a career changer or a high school student of like, hey, if you want to go become a chiropractor one day, learn how to teach yoga or go get a job in sales and learn how to relate to people and have a presentation not only professionally but also communication wise. Um, what do you think about the idea of inspiring these students after they've developed some fundamental skills, had some experiences, to start their own pre-Chiro club, maybe open a business banking account and learn what it's like to manage money, market themselves, market a club, obviously with the support of people like you or I who can deliver them maybe some marketing messages or some materials that we've used. What do you think about that on their college campus, getting used to approaching people or doing these health fairs on their campus? Because as you know, club fairs take place all the time, right?
Right. And as far as the learning some of the back office business side of things, mentioning, opening up a business bank account. What does an escrow account mean? What does, all these different aspects? Because you're not going to gain that in a chiropractic education. It's not, as I said, they're there to help you pass boards. Not my opinion of the best use of their time, but there's the whole small business side of things. The vast majority of chiropractors, I would say upwards of 70-80%, go into private practice where they're not working in a large facility, whether it be a VA or hospital type setting. I mean, hospital is very rare, but VA is more common, where they don't have to worry about the business side of things. So any grasp or knowledge or concepts of what it is like to run a small business, to what does payroll look like? What's a profit and loss sheet? What is how do you balance these things? Oh goodness, that's I wish I would have known some of those things when I was in school.
Mhm. And how do you actually make membership to a pre-Chiro club attractive enough that another student is willing to go in their pocket and give you $10 a semester or $20 a semester? And how many students do you need to reach, a goal to purchase a piece of equipment that might be helpful for the next group of pre-Chiro students? Like, how do you leave this legacy? Because you're coasting, you're in your last year of college, you've got nothing going on except just waiting to get to chiropractic school.
Right.
What better way than to like actually build something that helps inspire the next generation? I mean, I think that that's necessary as a cyclical thing, not only for us having been in practice, having found success, but also an undergrad or incoming chiropractic student who has the time to do something like this, or a current chiropractic student who's towards the end of the program or right before clinic, where you're kind of waiting to get into clinic and you have all this experience to give to the incoming students. You know what I'm saying? So you start to have these cyclical give back moments. What do you think about that?
It's realistically, it's a wonderful idea. As I mentioned, the time when you had asked earlier, the time in undergraduate versus chiropractic school is vastly different. And there's different times throughout chiropractic school where you will have more time or less time. But in an undergraduate setting of and you said sort of passing the torch down and being able to acquire a continuous, however big or small it may be, but a continuous base of this group and organization, that's think about the trajectory of what the schools would look like, or what chiropractic looks like if you have even a one university for every state, and there's how many universities. That would be massive impact on the trajectory of the profession, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just all about, can the profession or the professional education handle this influx of students that are already primed and ready for something greater than their pre-Chiro experience. So it's not like setting them up for disappointment because the school is kind of dropping the ball on that progression. But I think it's up to us to keep that progression going. As you said, you go and speak to students at different schools. I've spoken to students at different schools, but having that continuous supportive parallel curriculum is kind of what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
From, basically I'm thinking of it as like 9 stages to become a chiropractor. The first 5 are pre-Chiro. There's 2 when you're in school, and then there's 2 once you get out of school. Pretty easy to wrap the head around, but if there was that framework in place for the profession, I think that, as you said, the schools would be filled up. There would possibly be new schools starting on a continuous basis. The profession would begin to expand as opposed to contract.
Right.
Um, we would really actually start to see the profession reach its potential, as
Right.
we like to see with all of our practice members. This is the thing, is I feel there's this strong incongruency with chiropractors and the chiropractic profession. The chiropractors want to see the best from the people that they take care of. They want to see them striving to go beyond their goals and their expectations of what's possible for them with the help of chiropractic care in their life. And yet we don't have a profession that wants that for their incoming students, their current students, or even their chiropractors. I mean, without mentioning any names or any schools, I have had recent conversations where it's like, F that school, and this student just graduated.
Right.
And it's like, this is one of like the more reputable schools that has like the quote unquote vitalistic model, salutogenic model, epigenetic focused, graduate, and they're disappointed in what the school did to provide for them. They felt as though the school continuously drops the ball on being congruent with this huge philosophy. I often tell practice members when they come in, I talk a big game as to chiropractic and the potential that it has to change your life. But if I can't help you experience that and deliver that for you, that's where the incongruency is at. And I wouldn't be as, I wouldn't be seeing people like I'm seeing them and have a referral based practice and just have this ripple effect through the community if there wasn't congruency there. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And the you improve the quality of the student base, you're going to get them and improve quality of the outcome. I mean, it's the whole thing. The quality of your question determines the quality of the outcome or the quality of the answer at that point. So if you're pre-qualifying and getting these potential chiropractic students in the appropriate mindset, the outcomes are going to be better. And if you have the need, then the schools will have to follow suit with that. So yeah, that's how you can change some outcome like that, where you have a student that just graduated from a school and they're saying, that they're disappointed in what they got or what they quote unquote paid for. And if you have the culture that's leading into it, that their expectations are this, the schools will have to follow with that, and they'll have to meet those expectations at that point. I think that's what you may be alluding to with priming the student body base or the incoming DCs.
Absolutely. Because when we first started this conversation, one of the most passionate comments that you made is that you practice the Scott approach, which is a mix of Logan Basic and Gonstead and AK and maybe some SOT drop table. You were throwing it out there, and basically, most students at these schools are not even familiar with half of what I just mentioned there. Like, they never got exposure to those techniques, period, And I really got inspired by this project about 11 years ago when I went to the school that I went to initially based on location, and then transferred to the school that I was recommended to go to initially, that I went and visited, and they didn't get a clear enough message across to me of how different the school experiences or the student experiences between schools. And I just felt so bad for those students at the first school I went to that I transferred away from, who were never going to get access to the resources and inspiration that I had access, you know, in abundance to at the school that I had transferred to. So it's just that continues to happen, you know, it's never changed. And the schools don't talk to each other, the state associations don't talk to each other, the students don't talk to each other from different schools.
Mhm.
It needs to change, and I don't know any other way to do it except before they get to school, before they're inside of this structure that has already kind of been decaying for decades, that we create something new and fresh and then start there, and then move into the structure that currently exists, from having built something that has maybe higher standards. You know, the MCAT is this shiny object that attracts over 50,000 people to apply to it every single year.
Mhm.
So what is it about the MCAT that is so sexy? Not much,
Right.
just that it's something to work towards. So what do we have students working towards in pre-Chiro? Pre-Chiro doesn't even exist. What do
Mhm.
we have incoming students? Like, what's the new standard? You know that they changed the entrance requirements to chiropractic school about 3 years ago, where you just need a bachelor's degree for some of these schools. It could be in art history, it could be in theater, it could be in communication, but you're entering chiropractic school. No necessary prerequisites beyond having a bachelor's degree. Did you know that?
I was unaware of that. Um, as far as my knowledge, it's always been, that you had a prereq of 96 credit hours of
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
certain
not
aspects.
anymore. Not anymore.
Interesting.
So, so, you know, I told you I was interested in this project 10, 11 years ago. This just happened about 4 or 5 years ago, probably. So
Gotcha.
I don't know how many students have entered to chiropractic school and then dropped out after not being able to handle the sciences because they thought
They
that,
didn't
you
have
know,
the
they want to be a chiropractor. Huh?
because they didn't have the background for it yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole nother piece. I'll admit science and the deep sciences and preparing people academically is not really where I fit in. But the chiropractic skills and fundamentals is, I think, so. The way that I'm just curious, I know that we're getting kind of long here and I want to honor your time, but I'm just curious if you humor me for a second of what you think about this. I split innate into inner state, and STATE is an acronym for scientist, thinker, artist, teacher, entrepreneur. And I know philosophy is not there. Thinker is the philosophical sort of parallel to that. But what do you think about helping students build their inner state from pre-Chiro to Chiro student to pro-Chiro, I'm calling it.
Mhm.
Pre-Chiro, Chiro student, pro-Chiro, building your inner state throughout, keep the progression going. Science, philosophy, art, business, communication, thoughts.
The acronym you put together is all aspects that I deal with every day. I mean, it just really is. Everything from the entrepreneurial aspect of running a small business to the, well, I mean, it's even like the state itself, the state of mind aspect of that. With the thinker, I think that the chiropractic philosophy has to be there as far as a principles and basis, a foundation. One thing I failed to mention is that this year I did start the LCP program, so joining the Legion of Chiropractic Philosophers. I don't speak on it much because I'm just getting into the forefront of it, and so afterwards I can feel like I have a much better grasp of the concept, taking this huge concept that is chiropractic and nailing it down to just the smaller minutia is the reason behind that. And if for each one of those points that you'd put together there, then yes, that is absolutely necessary for any pre-Chiro student, and even for some pro-Chiros too. Just the continuous learner, the teacher aspect of it. We teach our practice members every day, whether we know it or not. We're doing it. So each facet of that is vital for moving any any phase of what you're describing. All of that's going to be necessary, whether it's pre-Chiro, getting some of the foundational points put out, like what is innate, What's universal intelligence? What's subluxation? What is all these terms that are unique to our lexicon? And additional with that, being familiar with some anatomical terms, getting just some basic physiology and anatomical terms. So when you do get to the Chiro student aspect, that's just common knowledge for you. So the breaking some of that down before you get to chiropractic school is great. And then as I said, with the DC student and then the pro chiro, yeah, it's those are all facets that we need all throughout this. But if you had that going into it, it makes the chiro student and the pro chiro side of it so much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, talk about branding. When I was in undergrad, one of the most valuable classes I took to prepare me for chiropractic school was called medical terminology. And it is not medical terminology. It's just like body anatomy, physiology terminology. And they're teaching you Latin roots so that when you get to chiropractic school, you can identify, you know, what's connected to the stomach or the heart or the pancreas. And I think that if we can, you know, Sun Tzu, divide and conquer, medicine has invested heavily in pre-med. I mean, they have an entire wing of the AMA has a like pre-med focus, you know, where they're dumping millions of dollars into pre-med every year because that's their lifeblood. I mean, that's what keeps them in power, in my opinion. It's not the cultural hypnosis on the general public. To me, that's a byproduct of them dumping millions into attracting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to their model of thinking, their model of practice. And I don't know. I get excited about these types of conversations. As you can see, I can go on and on, but like, what are your thoughts of like how the profession can, for lack of better words, compete with other healthcare professions that are out there in the forefront of these young students' minds or of these career changers, and position ourselves to not be a second choice, a fallback option, but to be the primary exciting choice?
Right. That's a big question. The I guess my fallback or concern is where would the information be coming from? Is the first hurdle, right? Of what's going to be said and who's saying it.
So what if it's coming from us, you and me?
I like the sound of it. What it could look like from us on a national level. Wow. You're talking everything from, you know, commercializing or having commercials as far as for joining the profession, joining, and that could come from, say, the organizations, whether it's the national organizations like the ICA, or the IFCO, as far as for coming out and saying, hey, this is what chiropractic is about. I think that's where it can get really interesting, is just saying, this is what chiropractic is. And this is what it, I mean, we don't even have to say what it isn't. We don't have to get on the negative side of things. Just say, be excited about, this is what I get to do as a profession. Because I do that with my members all the time. But thinking about sharing that on a bigger scale of the, I haven't had a day of work in 10 years. And I'm sure that you share that same feeling with it, that this isn't work. I just go to the office and have fun. So if we can share that on a wider scale, you'll get people excited about the profession. That's pretty neat.